In today's video, we'll be going over the history that I have with this first-person Star Wars shooter, and my thoughts of it. Battlefront 2 holds a special place in my heart. I have always been a huge Star Wars fan, and when this game came out, I kept begging, cajoling, and bartering with my parents to please let me get it. They wouldn't budge. They kept saying that it was too expensive to buy, and that I'd have to ask Santa. I no longer believe in Santa, but I did as a kid. So, Christmas finally came, and I woke up early, bugged my dad, telling him it was time to get up. The usual for an overly hyper kid on Christmas, looking forward to a special present. Our family finally arrived, and the presents and stockings were opened. I desperately shook the boxes, praying that Battlefront 2 would finally be here. But alas, eventually, the last present was opened, and there was no Battlefront 2. I did my best to not look disappointed, for I didn't want to seem ungrateful, but I was shattered that the number one present I had wanted hadn't come this Christmas. But, sometimes, parents like to play with your heartstrings. My mom had a secret present for me, something that was given after all of the other presents and candies. She gave me a gift-wrapped and thin, rectangular box that looked awfully a lot like a PS4 game. My anticipation for a present had never been this high before in all of my prior Christmases. I cautiously unwrapped the gift, and to my absolute joy, it was the game I had been waiting for. I thanked my parents relentlessly. I had to let them know how much this meant to me. I then booted up my PS4, and me and my cousin began playing. Now, to be fair, I sucked for the first year I played. It frustrated kid me so much that I was done. I didn't play for another 2 years. Now that the story is over, let's talk about the game from a more experienced, mature, and older perspective. I don't have a lot of hours compared to a lot of the top tier players, Star Bazaar, but I do have close to 500 hours in this game. I don't know if that makes me qualified to review it, but I don't care. So, firstly, let's go over the community. Wow. Just wow. Sometimes, the people I play with have enough toxicity to outmeasure Call of Duty players that say every racial slur known to man, and that isn't even a joke. They'll email on you, teabag, be annoying in chat, privately tell you you're bad after you've lost a 4v1 and killed 3 of them, and just honestly rely on their teammates to carry. The community is my least favorite part of this game by far, other than EA cutting off support when it was needed most. However, there's a bright side to these colorful people, if you will. There was always that one person that gives positive feedback, tips, and who to watch. Be that person. It is hard to remember the good people in this community when you're always surrounded by toxicity. That's all I can really say about this dying community. I just wish that we could fix the problems that have taken root in this once great game. Now we have moved on to gameplay. I'm not going to lie to y'all. This game is incredibly unforgiving to new players. There are so many sweats that dominate the lobby that newer players are kind of choked out of a fun and unique experience that Battlefront 2 is supposed to be. Not only that, but to even stand a small chance in this game, there are mechanics needed to defeat other players in combat. The most common are hook swings, parries, and combos. The last one is not very unique to Battlefront 2, but the first 2 are. Hook swings are an attack that allow you to get by someone's block. This is done by barely jumping, turning your camera angle to be near the back of the person, and swinging mid-jump. You get the bonus of back damage while doing this. I would say that the hook swing was the longest and most difficult mechanic that I had to learn to win consistently in this game, but I think that the hook swing is one of the most important mechanics in Battlefront 2. So next, let's move on to the other of the two mechanics that are unique to Battlefront 2, parries. Parries require either insane muscle memory or just great reaction time. A parry is when you let your opponent hit your block and then you instantly swing at them. You should see me implement this into my gameplay quite often, into the gameplay in the back. Parries are a great way to get damage in if you're fighting multiple people and you have plenty of stamina. I wouldn't recommend going for a parry if you don't have a lot of stamina, because it does take double stamina up. However, a parry is a really good way to punish your opponent for spamming you. You can kill them very consistently with parries if they're a spammer. So they're really good against trigger-happy Lukes and Mauls, who, just in my opinion, can swing faster than everyone else. That isn't proven, it's just like, it seems to be in my own gameplay's experience. So, it does work against all characters though, just know that. I would say that these tricks are very difficult. Like the hook swing, I would probably give, like, on mechanics for games, probably like a 5 out of 10 on difficulty to learn. And parries somewhere like a 3 to 4. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's kind of hard to just, like, implement it in your actual gameplay instead of just doing it in arcade or duels with your friend. So I can't talk about gameplay without mentioning by far, actually, the most important aspect of gameplay in this overall, honestly. And that is going to be movement. Dodges in this game are very different, in my opinion, than any other game that I've seen. You should try and master dodges. However, it takes time to get good dodges and, like, knowing when to dodge. Dodge is basically where you can escape some damage. You'll take a lot less. And it's also a great way to start a hook swing to get close to them. You could dodge, like, directly in front and swing after that. And so it also can lead to really good placement for your other attacks that you might want to set up, like normal swings. I mean, yeah, movement is just, like, really good. I mean, I feel like it's very difficult to consistently succeed in, but movement is what leads to superior gameplay and the destruction of your enemies. So I feel like the only time that you shouldn't be moving is when you are setting up for a behind-the-back dodge, using your abilities, or when you are hiding. Now, you probably heard me say a word there that you might not be aware of if you've never played a Star Wars game or a multiplayer game. And that was abilities. So, I'm not going to have time to talk about every single one in this video, but if we can get to 100 views, I will make a video on all of the star cards that you should use for your characters. And it'll be from my experience, and I'll make sure it's not biased. So please, just show your people or your friends this if you want. You don't have to, but if you want to see that video, 100 views, that's all it takes. So, thank you. Alright, back to the video. So, managing and using your abilities is, in my opinion, the best way to get some quick leverage in a fight and to start combos. So, for example, as you saw in the gameplay just now, Darth Vader's choke is great for setting enemies up for a double hook swing or just a normal hit to punish his opponent. So, if you've noticed in some of my gameplay, if you're paying attention to that, Darth Vader, when I use Darth Vader's choke, I will run towards the enemy as they're falling, and I'll do a hook swing. Now, you can do a double hook swing, but that's going to require B-hopping, and that's a little advanced, so we're not going to talk about that right yet. Like, oh, just now I went for it, I got though. So the last and final thing I want to talk about in this section is star cards. I would pick the ones that suit your game style the most. I feel like star cards are a very, like, you can really just choose which one. There are some that are just, like, objectively better than others, which I will probably go over in another video. but I feel like it's really just how you play is important. It's kind of like Hollow Knight, if anyone's played Hollow Knight, where you equip charms, and it's very similar to that. Star cards are kind of just like give your character little boosts, and you can upgrade your star cards by upgrading your character. And there are also star cards in infantry games. So I would like to say, to finish off this chapter, the gameplay is incredibly enjoyable, and I love every second I'm playing. But don't get frustrated early and quit like Kid Me. It was one of the biggest mistakes that I made as a child. Quitting that early before I had the time to practice and master was such a childish and immature decision, and led to me overall taking much longer to get good at a game. I would just say, honestly, immerse yourself in the greatness of this game and learn how to get better. Alright, now we're going to go on to the next chapter. And now we move on to the last part of the video, excluding the outro. The game modes of Battlefront 2. Honestly, this is where the game shines brightest. I've really only mentioned the heroes vs villains game modes, but there are some more familiar modes that align with other FPS games, the game modes that align with them will be Supremacy, Galactic Assault, Blast, and Strike, to name a few. And these game modes are difficult, but they can also be really nice to get lost in their striking graphical beauty. Honestly, I feel like the devs at DICE really went all out with the graphics of this video game. I haven't really talked about that much, but this game is like gorgeous. It is so great to look at, honestly. Like, if you're looking at the gameplay, you can tell it looks real. The characters have cool motions, the lightsabers feel like perfectly like they are like an actual lightsaber and you're using one, and it works really well, honestly. The character design, they messed up in like maybe a couple of areas, but I'd say overall it's really just beautiful what they've done with this game. So back to game modes. They are going to require decent aim, game awareness, playing the objective, and having an agile mind. Now, I think we can all understand aim, because if you're going to be using a blaster, what passes as a gun in this imaginary game, or sorry, not imaginary, but imaginary world, you have to be able to hit players and do damage to them if you want to get kill credits and be able to get a hero. You can get heroes in Supremacy game modes, and they are nightmares for normal infantry to take. So, be warned. Now, I know a lot of people in FPSs don't like to play the objective, but in Supremacy and Galactic Assault, it is imperative that you do. Because if you don't, then you're costing your whole team. In other FPS games, you can kind of get away with just going for kills. In Battlefront 2, you really need to focus on the objective and try and take it out. And so lastly, let me explain why you need an agile mind. This game is fast-paced in every game mode. You're always moving, you always need to have a plan, you're always watching your abilities recharge, and there's always going to be your enemies. And especially in infantry, where there's going to be a lot more than just a couple villains to face, it could be a little bit overwhelming for some people. However, just try and remember that the point of the game is to have fun, not be frustrated. So, yeah, if you can do all of those, then you're going to have a pretty good chance at becoming a much better player. Honestly, it's just really important that you simply practice. I know people say that a lot, and it's kind of like cringe advice because everyone says it, but it really is true. And you just gotta learn some of these tricks to get better at this game. So, I feel like the game mode's main focus is to give the individual an immersive look into the desperate infantry battles that plagued Star Wars. And if that interests you, go on right ahead. Alright, next chapter. So, now we get to my personal ranking and overall view of the game. A summary, if you will. Now, this game gets a solid 8 out of 10. The gameplay is fun and challenging. but I also think that newer players will struggle to the point of quitting and playing a game with less specific mechanics. As I said earlier, this game is brutal to newer players. It is like, you know these mechanics or you lose. It's rough, and like it's hard, because getting that first like grind up and keep practicing and like getting your characters leveled and getting better star cards is so hard to do when you're completely surrounded by sweats and insanely, like, people that just don't have a life, pretty much. And I feel like that's just, it's really sad, because it's like they're just looking for easy kills to boost their stats and ruin your day. And if you're new, well, you're getting fed to the sharks, you know? It's violent. So, however, though, I feel like I gotta mention it again. The graphics in this game are stunning. It's on high par with so many other visually focused games. I mean, maybe not as high as like Red Dead 2 or other games like that, but for the immersive Star Wars experience, I feel like they've really hit the mark here. Like, every second is food for your eyes. So, in the game modes, I mentioned last chapter, the game modes are all very diverse enough to feel special and unique. And it's kind of like an experience that you wouldn't get from any old FPS. Like, you can just boot up Halo and something and get the same experience in that. The downsides that take off those 2 points and make it an 8 out of 10, not a 10 out of 10, are the community and the unforgiving nature it has to beginners. So, the community, like the best way I can describe the community is like drinking a cup of orange juice immediately after brushing your teeth, like instantly, which is a nightmare for every sane person. And if you're the weirdo that likes to drink orange juice after you brush your teeth, something is wrong with you. Okay. So, its unforgiving nature can lead... Its unforgiving nature is discouraging, and it definitely leads people to quitting before they have adequate time to learn and implement the tactics and mechanics that level up their game. And, you know, as I stated earlier, parries, hook swings, those take time, and it's really hard to use against veterans that are used to having to dodge these attacks, because this game is now 6 years old, and so it's going to be expected that there are people that have just adjusted to every single strategy, and it's going to be difficult for players that are just trying to learn it to just like be able to do it, you know? So honestly, this game is pretty much dead, but you fill up lobbies fast enough and you can enjoy learning the strats and having fun. As I stated earlier, the main purpose of this game is to enjoy, it's just to enjoy a Star Wars experience, you know? And while we didn't get BattleFront 3, which everyone wanted, if you aren't aware of the BattleFront drama, that was, it was pretty bad. Not a lot of happy people. But, you know, it happens. And, honestly, even if you don't like Star Wars, I think most people would avidly enjoy this game and all it has to offer. I feel like this game, out of all the other Star Wars games that are multiplayer focused, at least, it completely outshines them. And I'm not saying that because I have recency bias. I think this game is just great. And this game also made me hate EA and all they did to our community, betraying us. So, in case you forgot, I gave it 8 out of 10, and that's my final ranking of this game. So, yeah, that's about all I have to say. Y'all send this to a friend, like, comment, and subscribe, and see y'all in the next one. Peace.